Welcome to another episode of the Camilita podcast. Today we're talking about my story from the public dump to being mentioned in Forbes. Welcome to the Camilita podcast. Don't forget, before we get going, to subscribe, to connect on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, connect with me, send me a quick message, tell me what's happening in your world. I want to hear what's happening in your life. And I want to hear how what I have shared or what we're sharing will constantly or is constantly helping you in with your brand, your product, or your service. So don't forget to subscribe. Today, I want to talk about my story from the public dump to being mentioned in Forbes and what tenacity looks like. So let's get into this episode today. You know, when I share my story about hustling on the public dump at the age of 13 just to attend secondary school, so many people will come back and they'll say, Carmelita, I don't know how you did that. What was your thought process? What was in your mind? Why you felt the need to hustle on the public dump? Yeah, I had no choice. I grew up poor. There was no money to go to school. My mother, at the time, my father said to my mother, you will no longer attend secondary school because we have no money. And my mother said, we will find a way. So I said to mommy, yes, please, let's find a way. And I remember my sister telling my mother, well, why don't you come to the public dump and hustle because you can get glass bottles to sell so you can get your books and stuff to attend secondary school. And, at the time I thought, well, I've got no choice. Like a 13-year-old today would think, no, because obviously your friends watching you on social media or your friends from school seeing you or hearing of what you have to do, and that would be like a no, like no chance. But for me, I knew there was more to life than where I grew up. I knew that it had to be more. And so I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. Let's go on the public dump. It's just for a couple of months. Why not? And I remember going to my mother and having to leave the dump um, just after 6 o'clock in the evening when it got dark, go in the back of a rubbish bin and take the bottles out so the guards wouldn't see you. And then we would break up these bottles and we would sell them just so I could attend secondary school. Now, at the time I thought, well, I have no choice. Like I have no shame. This is something I want to do because I knew that there was a stepping stone. I knew there was a stepping stone to get to where I am today. I knew that it was something that if there was no other way, you have to just find a way. That's just how life is. You have to find a way. And so I just carried on doing it, what we had to do for 2.5 months in order to attend secondary school. And then obviously going to school was hard because we didn't have money and blah, blah, blah. But, I still persevered. But I want to share that story of tenacity because I know some of you are in a place right now whereby things are tough. Things are really hard. Seem impossible. And I have been there so many times. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I've been there. And I listened to Elon Musk yesterday in particular. He was sharing about people ask him about success and about the fact that he was working all the time or why he's working all the time. He's worth how many, almost a trillion now. Why is he working so much all the time? And he said, because I just feel I want to give more to humanity. He said people should work more. People should do more. And I know a lot of people will have a problem with him saying that because he really does a lot. But for me, at that point, looking at my life, I was like, what do I have to do? And I was willing to do whatever it takes. Sometimes and again, you can't compare yourself to other people. Now, everybody have their own craziness going on, okay? You can't compare yourself to other people because there are people that are not in your position. They're not facing what you're facing. And you may have to do more. And you may have to do things you don't really want to do right now. You may have to work harder. You may have to sacrifice. You may have to sell things. You may have to just humble yourself in doing things you never thought possible, all because you know the end goal, or that you envisage the end goal of what you want to achieve. How are you going to differentiate yourself from someone else? Because you want to be different. You want to do things differently. You want to act differently. You want to buy, and live a different lifestyle. That requires you to have tenacity. Some people call it grit. Some people call it, all sorts of things. For me, it was tenacity. It was like, what do I have to do to succeed? Like, I don't care. And even after that, when I started investing in property and I started, building businesses, I decided, you know what? whatever it takes. I'm going to learn and I'm going to learn how to invest and I'm going to keep investing and I will do whatever it takes. That tenacity is what separates the winners from the losers. Everybody thinks successful people have it okay. Well, it's nice, they're okay, it's nice, but for them, they don't have to worry about this. They never had to do that. I remember speaking to a client of mine this week in particular, and I said to that client, she said, "How are you? How are you? How are things?" I said, "I'm exhausted. Like this week, I'm exhausted. I've done a lot more than most. So this week, I'm exhausted, and I just feel I need to just like not see anybody or not talk." She says, "I never thought you guys felt like that because you're always so successful. You look so, you have everything together, whatever." And I said, "Darling, seriously, don't let that fool you. In order for you to achieve more, you usually have to do more or invest more of your time or invest more of doing things what other people won't do. That is just the reality. You don't have to work harder. You just have to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing." And she said, I never thought about it like that. And I said, "Well, yeah, that is exactly what we do, and that's exactly what I do." Um, and she said, "Okay, I feel good now because I hear it from you." But I want to encourage you today, if you're listening to this and you're listening to my own personal journey, my own personal story, at the time, or if you're in it right now and you're having to sacrifice and do things beyond measure, beyond what you normally do, beyond who you are, beyond what you think you're capable of, if sort of all of that's going on and you think, is it just me? Why me? Why do where do I have to do all of this? Why do I? Do you know what? If you want to achieve more and you want to succeed, you just got to do it. You got to not think about what other people are doing, and you've just got to focus and you've just got to get it done. And I am talking from my own personal experience. I look back at my past, I look at my family, I look at friends, I look at past friends, loved ones, and I look at what I have done and what I have achieved. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not saying this to big myself up. I'm saying this that this is what tenacity takes. This is what tenacity looks like. This is what your success requires. It requires you to do today what others will not, so you can have tomorrow what others cannot. That is what it requires. So sometimes my staff would say to me, Camilita, I'm so impressed with what you're doing because sometimes you're in pain or sometimes you're tired and you're still doing it. And I said to them many times, what choice do I have? This is my choice. I made this choice. Nobody made this choice for me. I made this choice. So what choice do I have if I made a choice to do what I'm called to do and to succeed? Nobody else has made that choice for me. I still have to do it. And they said they're impressed because I do it sometimes I'm tired or I'm in pain and I still do it. And this is a choice. This is a choice for you who listening to this podcast, this episode, and you're thinking, this is just you, or it's sort of some disadvantage. Yeah, sometimes you feel, why am I doing this? Or sometimes you think, well, I should probably just, be like everybody else. But you're never gonna feel comfortable. You're never gonna settle because that's not who you are. It is not who you are. You know you're called for more. You know you're called to be more, give more, do more, create more. So just do it. Because in the end, you're going to be so glad you did. And for those of you who are at a point whereby you are thinking, I don't know where to start, I want to encourage you to go to Camilita shop. Okay, go to my shop and click on my ebook, How to Launch Your Big Idea. Okay, you have an idea in your head, something you want to achieve, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Go and get that ebook, How to Launch Your Big Idea. Okay, and if you want to learn how to create multiple incomes, go and get my other ebook, How to Create Multiple Incomes from What You Already Know. The information is all there. All you got to do is execute. You got to take action and you've got to execute. And if you want to do it quicker than most, again, get my other ebook. Go to Camilita shop and my ebook, How to Fast Track Your Success. So many people said, Camilita, you seem to be doing things quicker than others. I have a system. Get that ebook, How to Fast Track Your Success. It's an online course. You have the masterclass. It's all there on Camilita shop. Take action. If you know you're called to do more and you've got a tenacity to do more and you've got fire in your belly to create it, then go and take action. Get the ebooks, read it, read what I have done to create multiple incomes, to fast track my success, and to build and to launch my big idea. Don't pull back, because the minute you do that, I promise you, you're going to feel so uncomfortable because you'll see someone else doing it and you'll think, gosh, well, I should have been doing that. Yeah, I know. So get on and do it. Don't forget I believe in you. I know you can do it because if I could go from the public dump in Trinidad to being mentioned in Forbes, BBC Business News, and others, you can do anything, but you got to take action. So first, subscribe, connect. Don't forget, leave me a review. If you have any questions, send me a quick message. Go to camilita.com, send me a quick message, okay? And don't forget, go and get those ebooks or those masterclasses or those online courses. Camilita Shop, and click on them and get to work. More importantly, get into action. That's my goal. Get into action because action dispels fear. I will see you again for another episode of the Camilita podcast. Any questions, send me a message. I'll see you soon. And when you get it done, I promise I will see you at the top.